You're good? Okay, well, thank you. Well, thank you for coming today, and I wish to call to order this regular meeting of council at 3:30 on October 26, 2021. Council would like to acknowledge Ucluelet Thought, on whose traditional territories the District of Ucluelet operates. Notice of video recording. Audience members and delegates are advised that this proceeding is being video recorded and broadcast on YouTube, which may store data on foreign servers. Does everybody have the late agenda? Okay, perfect. Looking for approval of the agenda with...
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And the adoption of the October 12th regular minutes.
Move adoption.
I'll second.
Any errors or omissions happening on Saturday and then Halloween on Sunday? So I imagine torrential downpour will be upon us on both days, but okay, well, we usually worry about 4 o'clock when you're rolling out, so we'll see what happens. So, and did you want to make a comment regarding COVID situation in the world? Anything?
Yeah, no, just that, thank you, through the mayor, that we are now, flu season is upon us on top of regular pandemic type activities. So vaccinations are available at all the usual suspects with pharmacies and painless quick procedures. So not only that, but still the COVID shots still being available here on the West Coast as well. So just a shout out to all things going into these months and keeping everybody in our community and our neighbors safe.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Public input, opportunity for the members of public to provide input, but it's not an opportunity to provide input about matters that have already been subject to a public hearing. So I'm just wondering if there's anybody via Zoom that has their hand raised?
There are no hands raised on Zoom at this time.
Okay. Any audience members would like to say anything today? No? Okay. And just confirm there's nobody on by telephone either. If there are, just hit *9.
Through the mayor, no callers at this time.
Okay, and lastly, are there any emails to communityinput@ucluelet.ca?
We have received emails for TUP 21-17. I'll be reading those during that particular part of the agenda.
Perfect, thank you, sir. And we have no delegations today. And we have 4 reports today. The first report is provided by the Director of Community Planning, is regarding temporary use permit 21-17 for 254 Boardwalk Boulevard. There will be an opportunity for the public input following the presentation by Mr. Gregg, and may I invite you to present a brief summary of this report. Welcome, Mr. Gregg.
Thank you. I've been told to raise this up so I can reach it a little better. And if we could have these slides, please, just to give a little context for it. So this is a temporary use permit application for the property at 254 Boardwalk Boulevard, and I'm going to walk across here to grab the pointer. Thank you for bearing with us. So if we could have that second slide, please. I'm just going to point out, give the context of the property. And essentially, this is a temporary use permit. And here I will, for council's benefit, point out. So this is a construction site across the road. The temporary use permit is for 4 seasonal RV camping spaces for construction workers, while the resort development is under construction across the road on Boardwalk Boulevard here. So where I've got the laser sort of pointing out is the subject site, and the sort of cleared area on the aerial there is where the resort condos are being constructed. And if you flip to the next slide, please. Essentially, these are relatively, if you imagine the rest of the aerial in the background, Boardwalk Boulevard kind of lines up between these two images that are in the staff report within your agenda, that the new development is in the colored drawing on the right, but sort of across the street and kitty corner up slightly is the site where the 4 RV campsites are being proposed. The conditions of the temporary use permit, you'll notice, are clearly specifying that this is intended for the workers during the construction. It's not for other guests or short-term, vacation rental use or anything like that. It would be overseen by the applicant with their contact information provided. So the draft permit is attached. The conditions are also attached as on the draft permits that's there. I should also note that this was previously on council's agenda. There was a hiccup in the notification that has now been completed. So today is an opportunity for the public to provide input. We have some correspondence, as you've seen in your late agenda, and there's some others that I believe will be read out. At this point, I think it would be appropriate, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them, or to see if the applicant or the representative would like to speak first. And then certainly this should be an opportunity for the public to be heard. Now, the notice has been given so that anyone who wishes to comment has a chance to provide that to council before a decision is made. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. Any questions for Mr. Gregg?
Thank you, through the mayor. Just wondering why the applicant can't put those trailers on the property that he's going to do the construction on.
Through the mayor, I think that's probably a question best put to the applicant if they're available.
Are there any questions for Mr. Gregg before I go to the applicant?
I'm not seeing it in the permit conditions, but I'm assuming that them being that they are RV units, it will be a maximum 6 months residency in any one of them, correct?
Through the mayor, yes. On page 25 of your agenda is the schedule of terms and conditions, and some of these are fairly standard, but it does specify basically the minimum length is 30 consecutive days. The maximum length of any one stay is 6 months. And that's because these are campsites. They're not meant to be permanent, dwelling accommodation by the nature of the fact that they are in recreational vehicles as being proposed.
Yeah, I'll move it on because you do have some questions. Is the applicant on?
I have one question.
Oh.
Mr. Gregg, does, through the mayor, does the applicant own another chunk of property on Boardwalk Boulevard, right across the street from Reef Point?
Through the mayor, the application, you'll see they initially had indicated, let's see if I can find it for you, on, bear with me. If you look at page 21 of your agenda, there is a diagram that's towards the top of the page there. It's rotated, but you'll see in their initial application, they showed 2 sites. The one that's on the corner, which is lot 26. The application today is for the units to be all on the lot 29. Lot 26, there's also, you'll see in the application, some discussion of, there's a bit of a pond that was created there at one point. Essentially, this avoids disturbing the pond the way they've laid it out currently to not get into any issues with changes on that site. So this, what is being requested is the permit for putting the campsites on lot 29 under the temporary use.
Thank you, through the mayor. Back to the 6 months only. use of these trailers. Who has oversight over that? Is that our bylaw department, or is it the owner of the property?
Through the mayor, our bylaw department, which is part of the planning department, has oversight of those permit conditions. So as part of the permit conditions, it also says that at any time reasonably the bylaw officers can arrive and inspect and check on that. We also they need to provide confirmation that when someone has moved out, to ensure and basically put the reporting on them that these aren't being occupied for more than 6 months. Contractors may come and go. They don't expect to need to have one person living in this for more than 6 months or an extended period of time, but that gives the ability for us to oversee that it isn't becoming home to someone. That this is intended for. It may be somebody who's out here for a week or two, and moving through, but not. This should not be anyone's primary residence. Perhaps that's the better way to answer that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. No other questions for Mr. Craig at this time? Now moving on towards the applicant. Are they on?
If the applicant or a representative of the applicant could please raise their hand. We have had a Perry Askunis. Excuse me if I pronounced it incorrectly. You should be able to speak now, Perry.
Can you hear me okay?
We certainly can. Welcome. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor and fellow council members. My name is Perry Askunis. My wife and I own lot 29 along with lot 8 and 9, 239 Boardwalk Boulevard. Allow me to mention that I've been involved in the Reef Point project and in Ucluelet for over 20 years now. We would like nothing more than to have this area, as we know it as Boardwalk Boulevard, cleaned up. And I apologize to some of my neighbors if by our actions with taking out a temporary use permit upsets them or causes them concern. So I'm going to try and alleviate some of those concerns for them today. Having read through some of the correspondence and having heard some of your concerns here with council, our intention is basically to clean up the site by removing some of the excess soil, doing some proper drainage, which is created by a certain berm, and some of the water that was coming in off lot 26. Some of the excess soil will then get moved over to lots 8 and 9, where it'll be used for landscaping. And while not being used maybe at the immediate time, it'll be stacked and taken off lot 29 so that, again, it could be properly drained. We will have each of the RVs will be fully hooked up to water, sewer, and we will have a sanitation dumpster on site within the property, not right on the roadway as perhaps some others are in the immediate area. We also intend to speak to our neighbors to create some screening between their property and the proposed RV site, as you want to call it, campground. So hopefully that'll alleviate some of the concerns of people looking in or talking about it being an unhasty sort of environment. I also want to mention that a campground is a permitted use under the existing C5 zoning, as also a campground exists not too far down Peninsula Road on abutting Spring Cove. Another concern that was recently brought up was the 6 months. This is no different than 6-month occupancy from people staying in any of the other fellow accommodation providers in the area, as that is a it's a zoning issue, and it's not something we control. However, the intention here is to house workers that are coming in and out to work on our project, and no one particular worker will be there for more than 6 months. And that's, like Mr. Craig said, it's something that we can control along with the bylaw officials. Another item I heard about was security. And again, I don't know how or if there have been any complaints from other neighbors regarding the campground down the street or any of the other accommodation providers. Our security will be Reef Point Cottage management, Reef Point Cottage staff. Again, we're going to have rules, much like any of the accommodation providers in the area have, to ensure that any of the workers obey by those rules, or they may not be working for us anymore. We would like to, have as many local trades as possible to work on this site, but the reality is that there may not be that many trades. Everybody's busy, and on a project of our size, we can only source so many local trades, and hence having to go outside of the Ucluelet community to get those trades to come. And one of their questions has been, where are we going to stay? So we are looking at the use of that particular site as a temporary use for those workers. I may also remind council and some of my neighbors that there is already existing construction activity on Boardwalk Boulevard, and people are residing in their trailers as we speak. So we want to make sure that we have a controlled environment where we, look after, the needs of, or the concerns of the neighbors, I should say. And, as you've seen with the temporary use permit, there's a bunch of conditions attached, and we wholeheartedly want to respect those conditions and the district, as well as our neighbors. I don't have much more to add other than that, so if you have any questions.
Any questions for the applicant?
Thank you. Through the mayor, Mr. Askunas, I asked this, perhaps you didn't hear it just a little bit before you came on. Why can you not put those trailers on the property where the building is going to be occurring? Is there a reason for that?
Yes, Madam Councilor, yes, there will be construction activity on lots 239 Boardwalk, and basically having those trailers on there will inhibit access. It'll make it unsafe, just for vehicles and some of the workers on staff that are going to be working on that site. And it'll be no different than, just living across the street from a development, in this particular case on lot 29.
Hi. Are you part owners or owners of some of the Reef Point cottages on that land?
Which land are you?
Or some of the
speaking?
Reef Point cottages, do you own some of those?
Yes, I do.
Is there a way that you could take some of those out of the rental pool and use those for housing?
Not there possibly, but I've got a property here, lot 29, which we're not making an application to use as a campsite. We're just making turning it into a temporary use. Perhaps, there would be a loss of rental income, which would be one thing, but we looked at the best possible use for us, and I think lot 29 would be the best use for it.
And one other question, is there a reason, what is the reason why that you chose lot 29 as opposed to lot 26 right across from the office? to make
Well,
better?
first of all, I don't own lot 26. That's owned by Reef Point Cottages, and that in itself would require. There's a pond there, so I understood there's a different process that we would have to go through, I think, to get some sort of approval on that site.
Okay.
And this one here is level, and it solves numerous problems in terms of getting rid of the soil, drainage, cleaning up that portion of the area.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Hoare, any questions for you?
I don't have a solid question. I'm looking at some of the issues around staging of the construction materials, and are the construction materials going to be staged on lots 8 and 9, or are they going to be on lot 29 with the RVs?
Well, the RVs will be on lot 29. There's only a certain amount of material that can possibly be staged after you have 4 RVs on 29. So the majority of any materials will be on the lot 8 and 9, 239 Boardwalk Boulevard across the street.
Okay, I know there were some concerns about potential blockage of Boardwalk Boulevard with construction material.
Yeah, we don't have an intention to block Boardwalk Boulevard. It's an access for everybody. Like I said, we've been there I've owned cottages along Boardwalk Boulevard, involved with development of cottages along Boardwalk Boulevard. And we don't want to, restrict it or make it an unsafe area for people to walk and enjoy that neighborhood. Okay.
And thanks for that question, Councillor Hoare. That was my question, because there was talk of staging where that would occur. So I just want to say again, you wouldn't be staging equipment or supplies out of 29. The purpose of lot 29 is for 4 RVs, correct?
Correct.
Okay. This is a difficult one. Well, it's not a difficult one. I think for me, as we've issued temporary use permits, for me, the test has always been about those directly affected. And I think, for myself, as much as this is a well-received project and I understand trying to use a lot next door, I think for my test, it's always about those people directly affected. So, and there are a lot of letters in today that we've got in, and there's the common principle in there is the concern about the trailers and what that's going to look like, and whatever the history is between the applicant and some of the neighbors, that's between them. But what I do know for myself, I really want to support this, but it's difficult too because I have so many letters against it for temporary use, and so I'm struggling with that one. Go ahead.
I'm struggling with the 3-year timeline because we've said no before to the 3 years when we were offering out the other shorter term. I get that it won't be the same person day in, day out for 3 years in total, but it still has the potential, whereas before, if we had a shorter time frame and then if all goes well, then you reapply and another permit is issued. I have the same feeling about this 3-year timeline as I did about the last one that came before us of the same.
Thank you for that.
While I totally support this development, and I know that they have another option, because what the developer can do is use their existing rentals, and that's what a lot of us do. It's not that we don't want to take it out of the rental pool. It's the last thing what you want to do, but for the whole aesthetics and look of that neighborhood and just the uproar that it's already had across the street, I can't support this.
Do you want to make any final comments, Councillor Hoare? Yeah, okay, we'll get there, sir. We're just having a little dialogue there. Thanks for keeping me on track. The applicant, is there any final parting words you'd like to say or any additional questions for the applicant?
Well, my question is to council, if we do not proceed with a temporary use permit, then would you rather I make an application as a campground as allowed under the existing zoning?
Well, we're going to finish off the round of questioning, but I think that is, I don't think there was really a question for you. You're just, I get your concerns and you're hearing the pulse of the council here. I just, we don't have any additional questions for you at this moment, but please stay on the line because we may have some additional questions for you.
Sure.
So, opportunity for the public. I'd like to make a couple comments regarding this application. If any of you would like to speak. If you don't mind just going up to the microphone, please. And yeah, it's a bit of a formal process. Yeah. Thank you.
Leave this on.
References that way.
Hi, I'm Kelly Faulkner. I'm an owner of Cabins West. On the letter to council from Cliff McCool dated April the 16th under purpose, last sentence of the second paragraph said that this is strictly an interim measure to house workers and to act as a staging area. But he said it wasn't really going to be a staging area. He didn't really clarify that. That was...
I heard that too as well. So today, I know in the applicant they talk about staging, but it appears that it's not being used for a staging area, for exclusively for RVs. Is that correct? That's what we all heard?
Well, he did say some staging.
Yeah. So,
but we don't know what that means.
well, we can clarify. If you have some other comments, I would like to hear them. So that one, I did ask the question, and I think the applicant has made it clear that it will be not used for a staging, just for the 4 RVs.
Yeah.
Do you have any, you being the neighbor there, I'm just curious what your direct impact is. Is it staging that they're going to be mud on the road, or is it more to do with you're not comfortable with RVs? Like, I'd like to know what your direct concerns are.
Mainly the noise
Okay.
of using the access route, which will, if they're coming in off of Peninsula Road, making a left onto Boardwalk Boulevard, and then turning right onto the access route, which was going to go across Lot 26, cross over the end of our lot, which is 28, and then wind around on Lot 29 and come out onto Boardwalk Boulevard. And then they would take a right turn at the exit point and then have to make another left by that corner to go into the development site. So, as well as a safety issue with all the additional turns of that big equipment, is going to be all the added noise for 3 years of additional noise on top of the development site. That's our main concern.
So it sounds like aesthetics and noise.
Yes.
Okay.
And safety.
I have a couple questions for staff, though. Do you have any other comments regarding those? Okay. So, and I just want to make sure that we're clear on everything. So, Mr. Gregg, if I can, thank you for those comments. Appreciate it. Looking at page 21, we have the applicant looking at number 29. What I'm confused about, but it's probably in a report. What is the one RV on lot 26 here on the corner of Peninsula and Boardwalk?
So through the mayor, this the application started out covering both lots. That is from, obviously this was an earlier letter that this was attached to.
Yeah.
So the permit that has been drafted is for lot 29. It's the 4 spaces, not the additional one that's shown on lot 26. So, but I would just note the council, can certainly change what is there in the draft permit, whether it's the term of the permit for less than 3 years and for renewal, or for right now, as drafted, it does speak that for the purpose of the permit is for the short-term accommodation for workers and staging. That could be adjusted as well. It's really in council's control to issue the permit as to follow your decision.
Since you're still there, and the diagram again on page 21, the access route, would they still have the intention, do you know, to put that access route in? Or if the applicant is just for the 29, would that mean that there wouldn't be a thorough road between those two lots during this time?
The permit is currently is for lot 29. Now, if
I know you keep
if
saying
the,
that,
app,
it's
if the
fine.
applicant is still on the line, you could certainly, ask them to confirm that, because I do recognize that this diagram on page 21 is a little out of date. It was
Okay.
with their original application.
Mr. Skutis, still on?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we're all very formal. It's okay. Your hearings and concerns. I think you can appreciate some of the neighbors and COVID and the economy and nightly rentals, etc. In your request here, I'd like to start with the low hanging fruit item here. You made a mention that you would not be using this for a staging of construction materials. Is that correct?
Well, if yes, that's correct. I mean, as the permit, temporary use permit now has been amended only to lot 29. So after you put in, let's say 3 or 4 RVs, there is not going to be that much space to allow for that staging. So the staging, storage of that type of equipment or materials will happen on lots 8 and 9. As far as the access that was discussed, the intention, if it's only on lot 29, wouldn't be coming off lot 26 at this point in time. Somebody would have to back up your trailer, no different than parking in one of the other lots across the street, or using it as a parking space in one of the other cottages or resort accommodation units along Boardwalk Boulevard.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. So staging wouldn't occur on the lot, but we still have the one outstanding item, which is it seems like there's a concern of the neighbors of what that's going to look like. Is it going to end up with blue tarps on the side, floating in the wind, people having drinks by the campfire, you're phoning and there's no on-site manager, and there's history obviously between landowners that may or may not take the gravity of the complaint seriously. So,
well, let me address that for you. The RVs are going to be at the moment RVs probably that I'm going to purchase and put on site, so they're not going to be anything unsavory or particularly old, if you will. They're going to be good RVs. There will be rules, as there are rules with any other accommodation provider, to ensure that noise, like anything else, is kept to a minimum. I know for a fact there's other accommodation providers, and again, I spoke to this earlier regarding security and noise. They don't have an on-site management team. Some of their owners are absentee owners, and whether they do it from it's an Airbnb structure or they have some other rental program in place. We've got management from Reef Point Cottages that will look after the security. They'll look after 24/7 phone call system, and they're within walking proximity and viewing proximity to the site. So we'll try and alleviate as much of those concerns as possible.
yeah, and I think the concerns need to be on paper too, right? I think that's the thing here. But I'm going to pass it back. Thank you for answering that question. Back to council.
Through the mayor to Mr. Gregg. So the screening conditions, is that something that we could, so what are the screening conditions, the vegetation, and is that proposed to be put in before the RVs are going to be put in if this was approved?
Through the mayor, yes, that essentially the conditions of the permit are within the control of council. I'm just looking for the condition here. Yeah, it says condition 11 on page 25. The front and rear yards must be fully landscaped or retain existing vegetation except for areas used for parking to keep them screened. Exactly. And that also note that condition 4 of the permit does speak to quiet hours, that there's the requirement that they would provide if this permit is issued, they'll provide the contact email and the cell number of who is the individual responsible for overseeing these sites, so that we have it, but also that they're responsible to make sure that there isn't noise between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. of the next day, and that, if they don't meet the conditions, there's also other conditions around, essentially fire safety and inspection to make sure they have some basics in place. But failure to meet the terms and conditions of the permit may result in the permit being suspended. They forfeit their deposit.
We're making progress, okay? We know what it's being used for, and it's clearly stated here, and we can change that. I do sort of agree with Councillor Cole. 3 years is a long time, and in 3 years, if there was perhaps a way to shorten that in order to get a check and balance to ensure that the neighborhood, and especially the residents directly affected, have a way to weigh in and say, hey, you know what, may not like the person, but they're doing what they said that they're doing, and I think that's a really important, step, knowing that all parties need to live together in this small town. That would give me the ability to look at you, all of you, knowing that we are listening and giving a way out if there are some infractions or some concerns that haven't been addressed in, on paper. One thing that I know that's not in here, and I don't know if we can, conditions of RVs. I know Mr. Kudis is talking about bringing RVs. There's no inspection outside of fire, which is to do with CO2 and I believe second fire exits, all the rest of it. But it doesn't mean that is I know I'm more of a new condition I think people would want to see. I'm blabbering a bit because I'm just on the fence here about how do we get this project, moving in a forward direction, but also having the neighbors realize that, their concerns are also being listened to.
I do. It would be nice to see a shorter term than 3 years. And I would like to see exactly what the screening looks like, because I know certain screenings are less than a foot tall. And it would be, just for aesthetics purposes, it would be interesting to, I don't know, how do we do that, but a newer RV, how do we do that?
I'd just like to, through the mayor, tag on to what, Larry, you just said. I think it doesn't matter, the end all be all isn't that it's newer, or they are, no matter what, brand new ones even aren't built for year-round dwelling. And I know a lot of circumstances in the world right now has caused people to default to that, but especially on the West Coast with our weather. And I think the fear of the sight of tarps is a real thing, because even new RVs aren't meant to handle that. Most people would store their RV in the winter so that it's not exposed to the kind of weather that we experience here, and what that means. So
yeah, and the reality is the workers are going to be working in weather like today, and and then what's the next? Is there going to be a shed put up with a couple space heaters to dry their rain gear out? That's how the catapult effect starts. And anybody want to help me?
I'm just going to make a comment, because as written, it's for a period of 3 years. But what about editing it? And we make it whether it's let's 1 year potential renewal for 2 if it goes well, or because I'm thinking a year at least would give them a chance to get going on the construction. 6 months might not be enough, but that would allow a voice at that point to see how it's going. I don't know. I'm just throwing numbers out. Somebody's got to do it.
Yes. So, Mr. Roenberg, due to process, I believe we would like to probably work on a motion up on the wall. Are you able to do that? You have that high-techness?
Yeah, we can do that. Would you like to receive any more public input?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Thanks, you. Okay, so we've got a Are there any members of the public inside here who'd like to make any more additional comments? Rob, did you want to say something? Just make sure you say your name and address, please.
Rob Ferguson, 258 Boardwalk Boulevard, Cabins West. My concern is the 6-month thing. Like, what would stop them from putting workers in there for 6 months and then getting other workers, like different workers, to come in for 6 months? Or, like, is it just shut down at 6 months, or is it? Do they just get a new set of people in there for another 6 months?
That's correct. Yes, this would be a rotation. So, a maximum stay for one applicant. You know, they're here, and if they're, my understanding is they're able to find some more suitable accommodation in the area, then they would do a transition out. So this is the first step in with the 4 workers. With the after 6 months, hopefully that they've got some other better long-term solutions.
Yeah, see, that's our concern, is that if they just keep rotating workers, it's just going to be full-on trailers there for 3 years if that's the course of the thing. So I don't know. It's a big concern. The area is built up a lot. There's lots of established cabins in there, and I just think that maybe other accommodations or other solutions might be found. I don't know. I'll leave it with you guys.
I appreciate the comments.
Thank you.
Julie, did you want to say something?
Julie Corlizzoli, 258 Boardwalk, Cabins West. Mine's just a comment. It's just we had our workers on our cabins, and it was a full-time rotate. Like, we always had to check on them. It was always it's difficult. I'm not trying to say that all workers aren't like that, but it's a tough gig to keep them in check. They're not the same clients that you have as tourism staying there on vacation. It's their workers. It's a different feel, and 3 years steady. It's like every 6 months, even if it's rotated, it's a lot. It's a long time. It's just a different area, I feel, than, I don't know, it was hard for us with the cabins to do that too, and we had to separate it to try to keep them from our guests so that the noise factor, because it's hard to keep it perfect. So anyways, that was just my comment.
Thank you. Okay, no other comments from inside? Anybody present like to say any last words, comments? You're good, Ken? Any other members of the public that wish to raise their hand, hit *9 or raise your hand icon? You can have it.
There doesn't appear to be anybody with their hands raised at this time.
And I'm just going to go out regarding emails, and I believe you have a few to read out, do you?
I do.
Great.
This email is sent from Joanne Goulet and Denise Lambin, 221 Boardwalk Boulevard, number 3. Dear Honorable Mayor, Mako Noel, and Council, I'm writing to you with my concerns about the temporary use permit number TUP 21-17 to allow 4 seasonal RV camping spaces for construction workers and the staging of construction materials directly related to the development of Lot 8 and 9 Plan V1P66186. I'm a resident of the business owner of Big Tree Retreat, situated at 221 Boardwalk Boulevard. Here are my concerns: lack of care and tidiness. Since Lot 8 and 9 have been purchased a few years ago, it has been used as a scrapyard for rusted engines and broken vehicles. It is already an eyesore and has been for a few years. The entirety of homeowners and business owners on Boardwalk Boulevard take care to ensure the beauty and tidiness of the neighborhood, planting flowers and beautifully landscaping their beautifully landscaping their property, primarily used for employment of Ucluelet visitors. Hundreds of tourists walk on Boardwalk Boulevard every year among family and friends. They walk down the street towards Terrace Beach and the Wild Pacific Trail and back to their vacation rental. Safety of pedestrians and crosswalk on Peninsula. The proposed temporary use of the trailers and staging construction materials on one site of the street and the construction directly across the street will create a blockade for the pedestrian use. I asked myself, what will it look like for these tourists? Will it be safe for these tourists? The newly installed crosswalk with pedestrian lights have been a fantastic added safety measure to ensure tourists can cross Peninsula Street safely. In this proposed temporary use of Lot 8 and 9, the street will be unsafe for tourists to walk through. Tourists will most likely opt to walk up the street to cross Peninsula Road, therefore avoiding conflict with the transportation of construction materials, back and forth traffic across the street of the workers and machinery, creating a blockade on the road. However, crossing the street on the upper end of Boardwalk is very dangerous. This is why the crosswalk and lights were installed on the lower end of the boardwalk to begin with. I would like to see the crosswalk being used appropriately and not avoided due to construction. Small children could easily get hit by a car if they crossed the street on the upper end of Boardwalk. Commercial tourist zoning. Boardwalk Boulevard is zoned for commercial tourist use. We pay a greater sum in taxes every year for this exclusive zoning. It is not to accommodate construction workers. I'm in no favor for any lots in this zoning being used to accommodate construction workers living in trailers for a minimum of the suggested temporary use of 4 years. Poorly maintained lot. Looking at the property managed lot 8, looking at the poorly managed lot 8 and 9, I fear this is a reflection of the way the temporary use of lot 29 will be used. Broken vehicles, rusted machinery, and garbage scattered around. That was in parentheses. Providing a safe environment. Tourists on Boardwalk are majority families and small children. They often ride bicycles on the quiet street or play ball with their parents. It is a safe and quiet environment. I fear this will have a direct impact on the safety of these children and pets. Tourists pay to enjoy the fantastic stay in Euclid. Ensuring their safety is our responsibility. Concern about the workers. I personally fear the construction workers on their time off will be drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, and perhaps more. I've witnessed over the past few years that lot 8 and 9 does attract a particular type of individuals. I've picked up myself cigarettes and beer cans left on the ground at the edges of those lots. It is not the type of environment I wish our tourists to have for the next 4 years. It is also not the preferred image I wish for Euclid. Actively disobeying safety measures. I'm under the impression that the safety measures have also been disregarded by the owner on lot 8 and 9. A fence should have been installed around the perimeter of the lot before any blasting or machine operating. I believe the complaint to the district on this topic has already been filed by a previous neighbor. Nothing has been changed. The lot is currently not fenced in. Is this just one of many of the other regulations being ignored? For all the reasons above, I feel anxious about the future outcome of the neighborhood if this proposition is being approved. I'm certain there are multiple other options to accommodate the workers, or perhaps hire the local workers that already have housing. Thank you so much for reading my concerns. I appreciate your time and consideration of my concerns. Sincerely, Joanne Golette and Denise Lambin. And updating my mailbox, we have not received any more input to the community input web or at Euclid at community or community input at euclid.ca, excuse me. And the other input that was sent here has been provided to council in their late agenda package.
Thank you, sir. You know, temporary use permits for me shouldn't feel like a lot of work, and it's feeling like a lot of work trying to get this right because it's, again, we have a piece of property that's zoned to do something. Is there an appetite to move this along? I'm feeling some resistance here, so
I'm feeling very resistant because there's another option to take it out of the rental pool. I've done it. I mean, many of us have to do it, and if I just the whole aesthetics and my whole gut feeling. I just feel that there's other options.
And I have heard a lot of complaints about the machinery on lots 8 and 9. I'm assuming that's going to get cleared up because that's the building site, but it isn't a good indication of the character or the way the property may be handled.
So, end of the day, so we're looking to deny here with what we're seeing before us. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay. So there's no need to move the recommendations. What would you like, sir? There's no need to move anything. There's nothing to change, and there's some concerns. We're good. Mr. Gregg, any questions, comments? Okay. Okay, then. So we're going to be moving on then. There's no appetite, and there's no one's feeling very comfortable with this application, correct? Okay. Thank you. Moving on. Okay, the second report provided by the Chief Financial Officer regarding 5-year financial plan for 2021 to 2025. Bylaw variance report Q3 is for information purposes only. Ms. Monteith, may I invite you to present on a brief summary to this report? Very formal.
You sure can. Good afternoon through the mayor. We'll try and do something a little bit easier now. So today I'm bringing you an information report showing the 2021 budget versus the actuals as posted at September 30th, along with the variances for each department. So I report on the actual numbers and trends that I'm seeing and perhaps some of the bigger ticket items. Whereas in December, you'll be actually hearing from each manager during the budget process. They'll be going over their operating and capital budgets on December 9th. During that time, you're going to hear about the funds that we'll need to carry over to 2022. So you'll get the core operations, the carryover items, projects, and we're going to talk about asset management. So I'm really excited to have James here doing a happy dance about our Director of Engineering Services.
We are too.
So just a couple highlights regarding the total revenues. 95% of the taxes have been received, which is really good. And overall, our revenues are well above target for this time of year. We're starting to recover, I think, from COVID-19, we hope, knock on wood. Our planning department is very busy, and our business licenses are up. We've received some of the regular yearly grants that we normally get for small communities, gas tax and RMI. And most of the other grants that we have in the budget are grants that we have not received yet, and they're mostly in regards to capital projects. And then, of course, all our internal transfers that happens usually at the end of the year or as expenses occur at that time. Most of the capital projects are largely delayed, so that's why you're not seeing some of those costs and revenues in there. And then for expenses, of course, same as last year, we've had several challenges this year due to the pandemic, including the ability to hire staff and labor, contractors, back orders, and shortages of materials. Overall, the spending habits from this year compared to last year are very similar. And the same trend is happening for capital projects. And a good example of one of the ones just recently about hiring contractors is we actually had to go out a couple of times even to get somebody to be able to do the cemetery project. We had to ask for quotes twice this year. And even at that, I think we only got 2. So we finally got someone on site, so everybody's pretty happy about that. But this is very typical of the last 2 years for us. So it's impacted our ability to get projects done. We've also noticed that the costs are really going up, which has caused us just to come back and have a little pause and relook at some of the projects and just make sure those costs aren't too high to maybe those projects need to be delayed. We're just having a second look at some of them to make sure they're cost effective. So then carrying on to the surplus, earlier I mentioned the carryover funds. So in order to show that we're not collecting twice for a project, we put it into our surplus funds, into a working fund. And you'll be seeing that in December as well, how we're going to carry them over and into 2022 and moving forward. So we're never collecting twice for the same thing. Does anybody have any questions?
Councillor McEwen?
Thank you. Through the mayor, I'm just looking at Appendix A, and there's only one item under expenses that's more than 100% of the budget used at this point in time, and that's environmental health, garbage, and recycling. Is there a reason for that?
There is. So we had originally budgeted for a temporary sanitation laborer to be covered by the COVID funds, so not out of taxation. So that person has been hired. But then during the year, I think it was decided to have a little bit of a spring cleanup at the UCC. So those extra costs are from that. They weren't originally budgeted for. So we that's why that one's over budget.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councillor McEwen's our on-staff accountant here, so
I was ready for that one.
she's always going to throw one at you here. It's all good. No questions from any of us. Thank you again for that QC report. It's really wonderful to hear, that you had 95% of residents and businesses pay property tax. That also speaks volumes about the healthiness of our community right now, which is great.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And Ms. Monteith did bring it up. Has everybody checked out how the cemetery's been looking? Yeah, it looks wonderful. Yeah, it's holy moly. Yeah, we're wonderful to see that project checked off. Yeah. Now you need a bigger lawnmower. There's more grass.
We have a riding lawnmower now, and it's insured.
Oh, cool. There you go. Thank you very much. Okay, our third report. This report is provided by the Manager of Corporate Services regarding resolution tracking, October 2021, is for information purposes only. Mr. Rotenberg, may I invite you to present a brief summary of this report.
The resolution tracker collects the resolutions of councils that have actions that are associated to them. So, for example, there could be a letter that there could be a resolution of council directing us to draft a letter of one type or another. That resolution would be on this tracker along with the associated action and the status of that action. If there are any questions I could answer regarding this particular resolution tracker, let me know. The resolution tracker is provided every month.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you for that information. And our final report is from our fire chief regarding draft fire services and donation agreements with Toquat Nation. Welcome, Mr. Fire Chief.
The Mayor, thank you. So in front of you have a report and copies as well of the draft agreements between the District of Ecolode and Toquat government to provide assistance with fire protection in the community of Makoa. It's been a long time coming, a lot of back and forth, but I feel we have a good, solid agreement that both sides should be comfortable with. So basically what would happen is if there were a fire in Makoa, they would call 911. We would then respond. The district would respond in my pickup truck, head out there and provide assistance with them. They already have an emergency response team who would be initiating fire suppression. Part of the other agreement is the donation of equipment. So that part includes donation of our decommissioned pumper truck. It's a 1986 Chevrolet truck that still works, still pumps, but it doesn't work for us as a community because it's past its livable lifespan for insurance. So there's actually two agreements. First one is the donation agreement, which includes the pumper truck as well as some used turnout equipment. And what that will do is that'll help provide them with some of the gear that'll help keep them safe until we can get out there and provide some oversight if they do have a fire. Once again, the gear that we've been donating is in good condition, but it's past its serviceable date, so it is of no use for us for insurance purposes. Would be good use in this sense. Our district's lawyers have reviewed the agreements. They're both written in consultation with the lawyer. But if you go in the middle and or near the top on the second page, the second paragraph speaks to liability. So it's important to note that any type of agreement like this, there is a certain amount of liability there would be on our part. Our lawyers are confident that liability is very, very likely covered by the clauses as written. Along with, as part of the agreement, would include some initial training on the use of the pumper truck and some basic fire suppression safety more than anything, which would be done by myself. I've already had the truck out there a couple times, and we've seen that it works, and it would actually work quite well for them. They have quite a good domestic water system in place, including 7 fire stations strategically placed throughout the community. And right now, as it stands, they do have the ability to reach most of the buildings and structures within the community just off of the hydrants. The problem is a lack of pressure. So what the truck would do was boost that pressure so we can move more water. The truck itself, very simple to operate. It's a 1-ton pickup standard transmission with a power takeoff pump. So very easy to operate. We've had it serviced, so I know it works. Part of the agreement as well is that there is no warranty representative on behalf of the district to do with any of the gear we're donating. So they accept it. It's all used gear. It's all been maintained as well as it can, but they're getting used gear. Financial impacts. So we in negotiations have discussed an annual fee of $5,000 that Tokak government would pay to the district. That would include the donation of the pumper truck, all the associated gear, and as well as a training and ongoing consultation that I would be providing to them. I don't foresee any other charges being charged. Through the mayor, are there any questions at this time?
Probably a couple. Any questions? All right. I think it's great. I can't wait to sign it if I get to sign that eventually here, that agreement. Thanks for putting the effort into it. My only question is remote operations. I know I shouldn't ask the question, but I will. Fire chief's not in town. Fire chief's vehicle's not available. They call because they need you. You're not in town, nor is your pickup truck. Is there a plan B that you'll be doing in-house regarding that?
Through the mayor, there is a clause in the agreement that says the contract is only it's subject to the availability of, number one, the district's staffing and the availability of my truck. So they understand that we wouldn't necessarily be able to provide coverage 24/7. Very similar. That's a common terminology in all of our fire service agreements, that there is an understanding that we do the best we can. We'll come when we can, but there is also a clause in there that covers us in that sense.
That's my only concern. There's a lot around a one pickup truck going out there. I think we need it. I think we need to go ahead on it. So thank you for having that before us. I'm just concerned that when calls like that come in, they come on a long weekend or it's a rainy night. They don't usually come in between Monday to Friday. And for me, with Makoa and the connection with their new recently built community center and their 8 new houses they built, I think it's welcome. I just want to make sure that it's not a dead phone saying, hey, we can't make it. But anyways, outside of that, I love it. So thank you for doing it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Through the mayor, Chief, I know we already have an agreement in place with the Kluathat. I'm wondering if down the road, if the next wave of timing out gear and stuff will was there any of that in their agreement, or the next go? Would the Ucluelet be a benefactor to that?
Through the mayor, the Ucluelet agreement is quite a bit different in that the basis of that agreement is that we are there to support their fire department. As we know, they've had struggles getting their fire department off the ground. They've got it to various levels, and due to staff changeover, they haven't been able to maintain certain levels of service. So as it stands right now, our agreement that we've recently just renewed with Ucluelet is we're in a supportive role. Although reality says we would be we are the responders there, as far as I'm aware of right now. And also through the mayor, a little different scenario there as well is that we would be taking our apparatus to Ucluelet because it's on paved roads. It's not on 45 minutes on a gravel road, which would be very hard on our equipment.
I would just be in support of moving forward in the future if there was any way to collaborate maybe or help them along a little bit with their program as well, if there was a role to play at all that could be provided from the district. That's all. Thank you.
Through the mayor, I've reached out numerous times since I was hired here to provide similar service of consultation and instruction evaluation to Ucluelet with no response so far.
No response, but I know, I speak to President McCarthy almost weekly, and I know that just having the agreement and be able to phone over for support is definitely probably the reason why you're not getting phone calls, because I think that they're comfortable with the level of support that exists today, and hopefully in the near future they might be able to get some more members of the community that will participate. So again, thank you for keeping that relationship alive. Okay, so was there, who probably wants to move these recommendations?
Whoop, crash. I'll do it.
Okay, go for it.
I'm making noise anyway.
Yeah, do it.
I will move that council endorse the draft fire service agreement and donation agreement between the District of Ucluelet and Toquat Nation as presented, and further that council directs staff to present the final fire service agreement and donation agreement between the District of Ucluelet and Toquat Nation upon Toquat Nation executing the agreement.
I'll second.
Perfect. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thanks again, Chief. Appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Okay, moving along. Everybody's good to keep on going? We're feeling all right? You guys don't need to stick around. You know that, right? Okay, you guys. I'm gonna give you guys the exit right now. Go. No one's noticing. Thanks for coming out. Thanks, you guys. Take care. Yeah, you see them talking amongst themselves. Okay. It's like a part of the movie. You're not too sure whether you should get up or not or stick around. So, okay. Anyways, we'll keep on going then. Legislation. There we got 3 of them. So, welcome back, Chief. Fire Chief was regarding the fireworks regulation. Oh, must be close to Halloween. Number 967/2004. Okay, welcome back.
Through the mayor. Yeah, so in front of you have a report on our bylaw to do with fireworks control within the district. A little bit of background to do with our bylaw. This bylaw particularly is loose and it's tough to interpret and which makes it tough to enforce. So staff recommends is recommending, of course, that we revisit it and see if there's areas we can't tighten it up in some ways. So in Canada, fireworks are generally classified into 3 categories: consumer fireworks, such as Roman candles, sparklers, fountains, etc. Those are generally traditionally the easy ones, the store-bought ones. There's also display fireworks, such as we have in the sky. Traditionally, we've had at Big Beach down here at Halloween. And then there's special effect pyrotechnics, which are very high hazard pyrotechnic devices used for movie props, things like that. So there is a place for those, but they are highly regulated. Currently, bylaw 967/2004, which is a district's fireworks bylaw, does not distinguish between the various classifications of fireworks. So that's where it makes it tough to enforce. It defines firecrackers and fireworks in general. So I think it's important to set those definitions up just for some clarity and to understand how it is difficult to differentiate in our current bylaw. The only fireworks permit that I've issued in the 2 years that I've been here was for a commercial display of fireworks for Halloween 2019. And although there are, as we know, has been lots of fireworks at different times, obviously without permits. So I also did a small comparison of some nearby towns, comparing bylaws, just for example, because it's always nice to know when we're looking at these things, what are other towns doing? So currently, Tofino does not allow for the sale of fireworks. They allow the discharge of consumer fireworks between the hours of 5 p.m. and midnight on the following dates. I won't read all those dates out, but they're all holidays, of course. And they have no provision for display or special effects pyrotechnics. Port Alberni does not allow the sale, possession, or use of consumer fireworks. It allows the possession, storage, and discharge of display fireworks with a permit by the fire chief. Port Alberni allows the possession, storage, and discharge of special effects pyrotechnics only with council's approval. Parksville does not allow the sale, possession, or use of consumer fireworks. Does allow the possession, storage, and discharge of display fireworks with a permit issued by the fire chief. Ucluelet allows the sale of fireworks between October 24th and October 31st of each year. Allows the discharge of consumer fireworks between October 24th and October 31st each year, provided a permit has been obtained from the district. Does not address the possession, storage, or discharge of special effect pyrotechnics. So right now we do not have a process of controlling special effect pyrotechnics. Backing up to the first page, my recommendations. So what staff recommends is prohibiting the sale, use, or possession of consumer fireworks, but permitting the use of display fireworks and special effects pyrotechnics through a strict permitting system. Most of the permitting systems that I've researched have a 30-day window where you need to allow for 30 days. You have to apply for that permit 30 days before you plan to use them, and that prevents somebody obviously from coming up and saying, I want to blast off some fireworks tonight. So that would allow us a bit of a safeguard there for to get the permitting in place. I'll gladly field any questions.
First, any questions for the chief? Go ahead, Councillor Hoare.
Just a quick one, Chief. So I'm assuming that display fireworks would be like the fireworks at the Halloween fireworks that we normally had, right?
Through the mayor, yes.
Okay. And just a question, there's no reference about Parksville doing anything with special effect pyrotechnics, so they don't have any control over those?
Through the mayor, I believe they do have a permit system, but I will stand corrected if that's not the case. That's just not in there.
No worries.
Through the mayor, what is the normal cost to get a permit for fireworks? What do we charge now?
Through the mayor, I believe it's $50. It's a nominal fee.
That's it. Okay. Oh, I have another question.
Go for it.
The one, when we were talking about this earlier, I was talking with a bunch of people, community members, and when you come through Port Alberni, many people stop at T-Shot and load up, and I know a lot of people have loaded up for this year. So is there a way that we could write a letter? I know Tofino was talking about that too, and write a letter, and just if we're going to move forward with this recommendation, is there a letter that we could write just saying that we don't allow the these kind of fireworks to be used in our municipality? So tourists or whoever, I know a lot of people that stay down the road have also gotten them for Halloween, guests and so forth. So it would be nice to give people a heads up.
Through the mayor, staff agrees that would be a good idea to inform the tourists, especially who wouldn't necessarily know of a bylaw, especially a change in a bylaw.
That's cool.
I would like to take it one step further and say that at this point in time, when we're 5 days out from Halloween, that people have already probably got their goods. And in a year where lots of the other fun has been sucked out of life, that I would prefer to visit this because it's at this late of a date. It kind of seems like it would be like a sneak attack, in my opinion. That's how I feel. And that, and moving forward, certainly at the dogs, and I like the idea of the permit and having to apply for it a certain amount of time out. So notice could be given to people with dogs with anxiety or dogs that need to, so that they could make accommodation for that, whether it was to leave town or whatever. So I think a permit is a nice way to track, to be able to forward information, whether it's out through Yuki whatever, not Yuki whatever, but
Yuki Mail, I got it.
Yuki, yeah.
I'm with you.
So that's how I feel about it, that maybe this is too close to do for this year at this moment, and that the next meeting maybe.
So, Chief, for clarity, this is not. We're moving this recommendation. It's not tomorrow. You're swiping fireworks. You're just getting yourself ready for next whatever.
Through the mayor, that's correct. It's just the timing that is that week actually. Yes, it's strictly a timing thing, and it's not possible to pass this bylaw before this Halloween. So it's just a matter of starting the process. And in the meantime, I have asked our bylaw department through Mr. Gregg to step up enforcement. Now that we have 2 bylaw enforcement officers, we have the ability to step up controls a little bit, because there have been some concerns, as we know, raised from some residents due to fireworks.
You have a follow up? Or are you good? Councilor McEwen, did you have any comments? Okay, I just got a couple more comments there, if you don't mind.
I just have one more question. The community board's going to blow up in a couple of days, so I'm wondering if there's something that we could put out there saying that we're looking at the bylaw, that there's like some kind of information on Yuki Mail or something that we could say that coming 2022.
No, I yeah, and you got your hand up.
Yeah, I think I can help.
Okay.
My department's going to get back in the habit of doing council summaries. Council summaries go out annually.
I love those.
In the event that any resolution that's captured within these meetings would be on that summary, that may achieve some of what you're thinking about.
I just want to say that the difference between prohibiting the sale, use, and possession of the consumer fireworks, because those are the ones where we go to the call and some poor kid is blown his little hand off with, and it's unnecessary part of the fun because it sucks the fun right out of it. So, and that it's nice to still be able to go and watch the display ones. So I like that A and B are separate like that.
Perfect. And I just really want to make sure, like, when we had the burning bylaw came to us, which was, moved along quickly, which I'm very supportive of. I think when we get into this, it would be, yes, good to have a little community summary, but also, maybe a community of the whole, just really get this. Because again, we're speaking from 5 of us, biased things for me. I grew up with fireworks. I think Halloween is like G-rated in town. I think, there's a lot of good things. I wasn't aware that I could hold up to 50 pounds of fireworks at my home. I wasn't aware that was legal. So there's definitely some things. But I think that we also got to hear the audience that would like to have the similar experience as we were kids to fireworks. Because, there's a lot of, I'm not saying I don't support it, but I also have to the world's getting really restricted, speeding and then fireworks and vaccine and taxes. I mean, it's just getting, and I think, and I'm supportive of this. I just want to make sure that this is a fun, fruitful dialogue with the community.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. Bottom line is it's all to do with public safety.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's what they've been telling us all along.
Sorry,
yes,
that's
sir.
why they hired me.
That's
someone hired me to do
that's
this.
That's the regular answer to most things.
So through the mayor, basically what I'm looking for today is
Yep.
for council to provide guidance, whether you want me to revisit and provide a draft, a revision of the bylaw, the fireworks bylaw, basically down the road
and
in time. And
that would be great with
what the
some
appetite
good
is for
community dialogue. It's on you.
Okay, I will move recommendation 1 that council direct staff to update bylaw number 967/2004 in the form of a new bylaw to regulate the sale, use, and possession of fireworks within the municipality by A, prohibiting the sale, use, or possession of consumer fireworks, and B, permitting the use of display fireworks and special effect pyrotechnics through a permitting process.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, look at that. That's
Thank
a
you.
lively thing today. I don't know what people are eating today, but we've been. Whew. And thank you, Mr. Rotenberg. I'll be pleased to see the summary aspect coming back a little bit. It'll be nice because it's sometimes lonely here. Okay. The second item we have is this report is provided by the Director of Community Planning is regarding Ucluelet OCP bylaw 1236-2020 and a Committee of the Whole schedule. Welcome back, Mr. Gregg.
Thank you, through the mayor. Just very briefly, this is a report just providing a bit of a schedule for the, as you'll recall recently, that we had brought some information and had some direction from council on providing some analysis. Really, this is looking, because we would need a motion to schedule a committee of the whole meeting on November 23rd, but to move it to the main hall along with a council meeting that is scheduled for that day. That gives us two things: a little bit of time to advertise that meeting is happening. Also, the location would allow council to have a greater level of in-person public participation. Just we think a larger venue makes some sense. Really, that's it. And so that would set us up for that Committee of the Whole and Council meeting on the 23rd. Then following that on December 14th, which is a regular council meeting, we would be, at that point looking for direction on perhaps edits or potentially, giving readings to the bylaw. And that really it could be a public hearing held in early January.
It looks really good on paper. I mean, this could be it.
Sounds simple.
Yeah, it has been for sure. Okay, well, great. No, thank you for your report. I love the timeline and stuff, and I think it gives us ability to make sure we get some people engaged on the 23rd at the meeting, so it'll be good. Yeah, please.
Move that staff be directed to move and give notice that the November 23rd, 2021 regular council meeting and the special committee of the whole meeting to be held at the main hall at the Community Center at 500 Main Street, Ucluelet, BC.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gregg. Oh my God, I think, if you ever get to that January date, I imagine there may be something on ice for you there. So, pending they don't ban that, but. Sorry, I'm on a little roll there. Okay, number 3. Another report from Mr. Gregg regarding zoning amendment 312 Pass of Melfort. Okay.
Through the mayor, this is a rezoning application or a zoning amendment for Lot 3, which is at 312 Pass of Melfort. In its sort of briefest, this lot is one of 16 lots down the Pass of Melfort place, which have an FAR of 0.35, and the request is to increase the allowable gross floor area from 0.35 to 0.375. It would allow them to enclose the carport, which is shown on page 72. There's a bit of a timeline sort of explaining how they led to or got to this point of applying for a building permit and realizing that they were over on their FAR. And so they submitted this application to increase it. It's a modest increase, I would say, as noted in the report. And there is a high level of variability in the building sizes already allowed in the neighborhood. There's a bit of history to the FAR, and you'll see in the table on page 72. Essentially, there's a bit of a patchwork. So in our view, this is a minor change that's being requested, but really looking for council to consider first, second reading of the bylaw and referring it to the public hearing.
Mr. Gregg, any questions? Okay, well, pretty straightforward. I think it's a reasonable request. So there's a recommendation.
I will move that council give first and second reading to District of Ucluelet zoning amendment bylaw number 1299/2021 and refer the bylaw to a public hearing.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. FAR conversation again, huh? Holy moly. Hey, holy moly. Hey, at the end of the 4 years, you'll finally get us trained there, Mr. Gregg. So all your good work. Huh? Okay. Correspondence. There's some great ones here, actually. So, if you don't mind, I'll start. I think there's no one in this room here that say that there's a problem. I think that speed bumps have been well received, and I would make a motion that perhaps we move the speed bump conversation for Bay Street as to the budget conversation. Councillor Horde?
I'm just going to throw this out there. You can't speed bump everywhere. And what I'm going to throw out is, what about the idea?
Yeah, you can.
Of what about the idea of dropping the residential speed limit in town? We can't deal with, Penn Road is its own thing as a highway, but we could decrease the speed limit in town, and I think that might actually alleviate some of the problems that we see.
Just on Bay Street, or are you talking about in town general now?
In town on residential streets. Drop it from 50 to 30 or 40. Even if you dropped it to 40, you'd still have 30 in the school zones and the playground areas, and I don't know. I'm just throwing that out as, is there an appetite for it? So, go.
It's interesting you say that, because that's what I was going to say, actually. And it's interesting that this came up. I'm glad it came up, because I've been getting a lot of conversations about Helen as well, and the speed on Helen, and I bet you someone over there would say the same. So I really would like to have a really good, healthy conversation about the speed limits around town, because it's true. If we speed bump one, sure enough, there'll be another correspondence about speed bumping another road in town. It is, Helen is scary. Bay Street is scary. Also, we have to talk about, and when we're talking about the budget, is sidewalks. Mr. Giggle Puss in the back. But we need to have that conversation about sidewalks in the community too, because it is a safety rate. Like, if I had small kids in any of those streets, it's scary.
I'm more inclined to go with the speed bumps on Bay Street. I've seen what a difference it's made down here on Matterson, and if they were installed on either side of that 30-kilometer-an-hour zone around the park, I think it would make a huge difference. There's so many kids that live on that street, as you could see by the letters in the petition.
So I'm just going to say that I like both ideas. I like speed bumps. Obviously, everybody knows that I was in love with speed bumps from the beginning of our term, and I'm glad that other people love them as well. I don't think, I agree with dropping the speed limit. However, I don't think the speed limit is going to change how people are driving, especially not on Helen, because I see who they are, and it doesn't matter if you drop the speed limit, they're still gonna go the same speed they go right now. And a lot of the reason Bay Street is a nice bypass to not have to go down. So when you're in a hurry, you're going down Bay Street, hence to save time not going through downtown. So people are in urgency. I do believe the only thing that would slow people down on Bay Street that are going to go the same rate no matter what the speed limit is would be speed bumps. And I think we can put them everywhere. People want them.
It would be
speed bumps for
no
everyone.
longer mean safe harbor. It's going to mean speed bumps.
I'm just going to comment on, I think, dropping the speed limit. Just, this is one argument. Dropping the speed limit is a change of signs. Putting speed bumps everywhere is a different cost out of the budget.
I do agree with Councillor Hoare on that. I would like to look at that conversation about speed limit.
We could probably go back to Mr. Lawrence on this topic, but at the end of the day, I think we have locals that we all know. There's 12 locals. I'd love to say all their names who's speeding around, but we can't, okay? No, you're not that bad. But, things like having places, part of town where, if you go like to certain parts of some towns where they have locals only, right? Ensuring that the people that are not from here get to their destination. Things, I have a big fetish for the red boy on Nora, right? And, You know, it'd be nice to be able to have that kind of Red Bull, but they're just really trying to get people to their destination, right? And I think that's where this conversation is, making people aren't lost on Google after they sat at Kennedy Hill for 5 hours. They're trying to get to Black Rock, and I think will be a good conversation to have. But I still believe in Bay Street with the new trail we recently put in, with it's narrow and sidewalk. People are racing through there, and I don't think one's got to do with the other, because speed bumps in other parts of town are not going to do anything. So it's just getting the tourists to their destination. So, Councillor McEwen?
Just a comment that it's been on our resolution tracker for probably 3 years to find a way to get people to Black Rock. And I don't know where that's at the moment, but that's a lot of the people on Bay Street are trying to get to Black Rock.
Don't I know it? But that conversation is going to be, I mean, Mr. Gregg and I kind of talked about it very briefly, but it's going to be part of that Peninsula Road upgrade portion, and then we're going to discuss how to. And also, once that end of Forbes Road opens up, that'll alleviate a lot of that.
Yeah, this is all 5 years down the road stuff, right? We're trying to find more, immediate. Mr. Lawrence?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One thing council could do is direct staff to bring a follow-up report on speed control measures for a committee of the whole meeting, where we can take a look at possible solutions to speed control. We can look at reducing speed limits and the ramifications, talk to the RCMP regarding that as well, to see if it's effective, as well as the possibility of doing a speed bump installation program where it's scheduled within the budget over a period of time. So, adding one a year or something like that, so it's not such a significant hit to the community in any given year.
I would make that motion.
He's going to write it up. We're going to go high tech here. So
I'm going to second.
I promised that I would take a 2-minute break, a breath, while they write it up here. So we'll just. Yeah. Well, I'll move that. We'll take a 5-minute break. Okay.
I will.
All in
second.
favor? Perfect. 5 minutes. We are putting the motion on the wall, so we know we're all talking about the same thing.
Okay, so where we left off, I believe we had a mover and seconder. I just want to confirm, first of all, that this is the motion that you guys intend to make. And I'd love, let's just, since this motion is new in text, let's have a mover and then a seconder.
I will move that council direct staff to present a report regarding speed controls for consideration at a future meeting of council.
I will second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And not that someone second what I had said, but I just want Mr. Lawrence, you're hearing an appetite for speed bumps on Bay Street. Will that be in that, or do we need to push something towards the budget?
No, you can leave it with us. We'll do a report and include both speed control measures in future
Thank you.
conversations.
Okay, we're good.
I'm assuming that'll include like a conversation with the RCMP about.
That would be
Yeah,
correct.
that's all part. Okay, yay.
So you're happy? You're pleased? We moved it. We're going. Hey, I love that. That was nice. Take a little break and have the motion clear. 2022, we're going to be unstoppable. And that's correspondence. Anything else? Pardon me? Yeah, we did. Yep. So no, nothing else regarding correspondence. You guys are satisfied. Moving on. Information items, comments, concerns. Councillor McEwen.
Yes, regarding AVICC, it was scheduled to be in Nanaimo in 2020 and in Ucluelet in 2021, but it got bumped because it was virtual in 2020, or it didn't happen at all. I can't even remember. So they bumped Nanaimo to 2021 and Ucluelet to 2022. And now they're saying it's an in-person event in Victoria. So how did that happen, and where did we fall off the list?
That's your life story, living on this town. So it's.
I would just like staff to inquire with AVICC when it is our turn to host this conference. And I can make a motion to that effect.
I can second.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Councillor McEwen. Anything else for you on that one? Nope. Okay. Okay, we're good. Moving on to any other business?
Council committee reports,
Oh,
I
God.
think.
Thank you. I was just going off my sheet here. Thank you. I should know who goes first here, but I need my script. Councillor McEwen.
Thank you. October 19th, I attended the Committee of the Whole meeting with all our societies, and I always enjoy listening to what they have to say. That was a great meeting. And then starting tomorrow morning, and so all day tomorrow, all day Thursday, is the VIEA conference, Vancouver Island Economic Alliance Summit, all virtual, of course. That's it for me.
Thank you. Councillor Kemp.
Thank you. October 21st, I was at the Ucluelet Chamber of Commerce Board meeting. We are partnering with Port Alberni, Tofino, and ourselves are partnering for a Shop Local campaign grant. So I've been busy doing that with Bill Collette from Port Alberni this week. It is due at the end of the week, so hopefully we see some traction there. The Ucluelet Christmas Market is December 4th. So Sika's been working hard on that. So we'll get some more verbiage out about that and more posters. And then Midnight Madness. Midnight Madness is on November 26th, everyone. So mark your calendars. We will have some Shop Local events for that as well. So yeah, that was it. And that is it.
It's in my calendar. See you on the streets. Councillor Hoare.
I'm excited about Midnight Madness. Always am. I also attended the committee of the whole meeting, and at which I just wanted a highlight was Famous Art talking about the Coastal Family Coalition's screening of The Wisdom of Trauma, and I would just like to say that my household watched that, and it was fascinating, horrific and fascinating all at the same time. It was wonderful. If you get an opportunity to read or take part in any of Gabor Mate's work, I highly recommend it. Also, as Chris Martin said, watch out for the reverse advent. It's coming. I'm working on it all my spare time. So mid-November. And I will be attending Bahia starting tomorrow. And this one's for Councillor Cole. I got my flu shot last week. So I'm all shot up.
They came in. Cool. Okay, thank you, Councillor Cole. And Councillor Cole's next.
All I have to add to the things already mentioned by this lovely cohort is the Alberni Clayoquot Health Network, which I sit on through the ACRD. We had our meeting on the 20th, the Table of Partners, and I'm sitting on a committee, a selection committee. It is time to read the contract for the coordinator position for the ACHN. That happens, I think it's been a while. It's been the same, yeah. So that is happening over the next month, and we already know that the funding has been offered the same for that role as all the years previous, except for the first couple of years. So there has been no increase in that, but yeah, can't help but ask for more. Maybe we'll see.
Thank you. And for me, I think everything has been said. It was nice to do the society's meeting, and I really hope that in the spring we're going to be able to actually do one in person, and we can walk around and talk like we initially used to. So outside of that, I have nothing to report. Okay, thank you for keeping me on track. Other business? Any other business for anyone?
I just wanted to bring it forward. We had a late invitation to a couple of things, and I know that we had a correspondence from Mr. Lawrence about the West Coast non-market affordable housing meeting, and I know that Mr. Gregg is attending, Mr. Lawrence is attending. I just didn't know if anybody else. It's November 12th. It's Friday. I know Councillor Kemps has been heavily involved in some of the housing stuff, but I don't know whether she might be, because they said both that they were interested in having both elected and staff. So I am available that day, but I know that there are other people who've had their fingers in that pie longer.
I would love to go, but I don't know if that's too much representation. I'm sure Mr. Gregg and Mr. Lawrence would tell me, but that's something that
Mr. Mayor, it's an open invitation, so however many people that we want to send.
Again, it's open. Myself, I'll be abstaining from it. I'm satisfied with planning, but if there's a couple councillors like to go for it. It sounds like it'll be quite a large group there, possibly, and we'll see what the takeaways are. Did you want to go?
Yeah, I could turn my mic on. I'm quite happy to attend that. I'm very interested in getting more affordable housing going. I knew that Councillor Kemps had been heavily involved at the chamber, and so I thought you were a good brain to have on that. So.
I think for me, if I get the takeaways, then I could go with that. If there's a lot of people there.
Okay, Mr. Follow up with Mr. Lawrence, and he will give you the details. Thank you. Okay. Question period. Opportunity for the public to ask any questions regarding what they've heard this afternoon. No questions from the audience. Are there any questions via Zoom?
Through the mayor, there are no participants via Zoom.
Any questions via telephone? You didn't have to tell us there was nobody there. You could have just let us think that there were people there.
Now we
Through
don't
the mayor,
feel
no
loved.
participation by phone.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, have you received any questions via email?
None via email.
Okay. And no closed session, so we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and have a great evening. Oh yeah, she's